The profound and wondrous Dharma is rarely encountered, even in 100 million kalpas. Having it to hear, accept, and maintain, may I taste the truth of the Tathagata's words.
Good morning. Looks like I'm introducing myself. It's good to see each of you. I think I see all of you. I have you on view, and it's nice. Well, at least it's not going into a second series, so that's good. It's been so long, and it is good to see each one of you. So, let me know if you can hear me, if I need to turn this up at all. I'm okay? Good. Okay. So we're gathering this morning on what in America is known as Memorial Day. This is a federal reminder to honor and remember American military who sacrificed their lives in an effort to sustain or advance democracy or resist tyranny. The need of these efforts have been brought sharply into focus in this past year. As usual, when I'm asked to give a Dharma talk, I go on hyper alert. What of my daily experience could possibly be of help to this Sangha of listeners? I feel a responsibility to share something of Buddhist practice that might resonate and encourage. While residing in this worldwide pandemic, I have been most struck by what we as humans have in common. For the past year, boundaries have fallen away. There was and is no place to go that is free of the threat of illness and death. I know in the past, if I'm challenged by something or weary of my present, I would contemplate going elsewhere. But in this pandemic, there is nowhere to go. No imagined place of safety or remove. Every human on the face of this planet has been made acutely aware of the reality of sickness, old age, and death. The delusions and illusions that reinforce a sense of self and other have greatly diminished. I've done a fair amount of sleeping and dreaming in the past year. A recurring dream I have involves losing my fanny pack. It's not difficult to interpret this dream as a fear of losing my identity, losing the tools with which I function in the world. My phone numbers, my money, my driver's license. Without them, I stand alone. I stand vulnerable. I stand dependent. I awake from this dream contemplating this sense of self, this identity that requires these objects, this threat of being adrift. Very recently, I had a conversation with a woman to whom I was delivering meals. We hadn't yet conversed due to pandemic limitations. I simply drop off prepared meals and she thanks me through the door. On this particular day, she asked me to sit down and indicated a need to share. She said she had recently engaged a Lyft ride to Santa Rosa with a friend of a friend, someone she did not know. Upon leaving the car and walking a ways, with some difficulty due to her physical limitations, she realized she had left her fanny pack in the lift. The fanny pack held her phone, her wallet, her phone numbers. She blanked on whatever number she knew. She felt panic. She felt alone. She felt lost. I knew how she felt. This wasn't something she could wake up from. She had to move forward. She went back to where she had been dropped off. The woman she traveled with was sitting on a bench. She was assisted in locating her fanny pack. The universe came forward in support. It is not easy to contemplate or exist in the illusion of separateness. Our tendency when feeling anxious is to move outward, where to go, what to do. For a while, we might feel we have options. If not comfortable here, fly there. If not happy alone, join a crowd. If tired of our mental chatter, drown it out. But that isn't the direction of ease. Outward. Not to begin with. What we need to be able to do before we move outward is to settle in. When we take to our cushion or chair in Zazen, there are a few tools for settling in. We position ourselves on our seat in as balanced a posture as possible. Bottom on cushion, knees on mat, pelvis tilted, belly relaxed. Or bottom on chair, feet on floor, belly relaxed, hips tilted. We drop our shoulders, expanding our chest. We allow the head to lift, the chin to tuck. We can lean out to the left and to the right, and a little less to the left, a little less to the right. We allow our head to be lifted slightly, our chin to tuck, our chin to tuck. My tongue is stuck. Then we activate a few cleansing breaths. And I'd like to practice this. This is something I've been practicing lately, where we'll do 3 breaths in with 3 little breaths at the top of each, and then 3 breaths out with 3 exhalations at the bottom of each. So let's do our leaning back and forth, and centered on our cushion that is lifted. Now through our nose, a deep breath. And at the top of that breath, 3 little breaths. And let that breath escape. And then again, the breath in. And when we think we're full, 3 little breaths in. And allow that breath to escape. And the breath in, and expanding with 3 breaths. And allow that breath to escape. And now, with the exhalation, we have a breath in, let the breath out. And then we're at the bottom of that breath, 3 exhalations. The breath comes in, allow the breath out. And at the bottom, when we think we're empty, 3 exhalations. And the breath in, and the breath out. And allow 3 exhalations. And that next breath, allow to come in without direction and out. And again, allow the body to breathe itself and breathe out. And we can watch and we can feel this breath. So we let go of the pattern breathing and allow our body just to breathe. I find this helpful in bringing my attention to my breath at the start of Zazen, also when anxious, when caught in thoughts of past, uncomfortable with the present, or fearing the future. Anxiety is an annoying companion, so too self-judgment. I would like to be free of both. But that imagined freedom is not the path of Zen, the path of Buddhahood. Dogen Zenji tells us in the final paragraph of the Shobogenzo, again, I'm dry. There is a very easy way to become a Buddha, not doing any evil, having no attachment to birth and death, sympathizing deeply with all beings, respecting those above, sympathizing with those below, not feeling aversion or longing for anything, not thinking or worrying. This is called Buddha. Don't seek it anywhere else. Some of these things come easier than others. I'm not at all drawn to doing evil, but I can't turn away from the fact that evil exists and is perpetrated by suffering beings on suffering beings. It can also be the result of ignorance, not being aware of our acts or the result of our acts can have an unintended consequence of perpetuating evil. Awareness, education, and acting to alleviate inequity can counterbalance evil. Having no attachment to birth and death. In order to have no attachment to birth and death, we have to have a pretty good idea of what constitutes birth, what constitutes death. We need to do the work of investigating birth and death. What is being born? What is dying? What is the transformation or transmutation that can be called birth, can be called death? I understand attachment as holding on or grasping an idea of something, and it is usually not until there's no choice but to give up this idea or let go of this relationship that I realize how firmly I've been holding on. Having no attachment to the idea of birth and death is embodied through Uchiyama's opening the hand of thought. Try it. When we are engaged in suffering, soften your breathing, soften your body, open your hand, and ask, what am I holding on to? Sympathizing deeply with all beings. When we do the work of sitting with ourselves settling in with our suffering, turning from the distinctions between self and other, we come to realize that there are no beings untouched by suffering, and we sympathize deeply with all. This is the gift of bodhicitta. We know it, we feel it when it arises. The fourth aspect here was respecting those above. I have a little trouble with this one. I'm taking it as a product of Confucianism. Sympathizing with those below, above and below. I see it more as developing respect and sympathy for all beings. Not feeling aversion or longing for anything. Well, this can always use work. Not thinking or worrying. We know this means not indulging in thinking or worrying. Plenty of work to do here. Number 8, don't seek it anywhere else. Yes, this is why we center, we breathe, we stay with the conditions of our life. In the spirit of Memorial Day, I found myself reading the memorials to past teachers and students shared on the San Francisco Zen Center memorial page. It's an opportunity for students or close friends to share their memories or experiences of a beloved teacher or fellow student who has passed. I've often found that through the first person sharing that takes place at our Zen memorial service and contributions such as these, I come to know the person who has died and their teaching much more fully than when they were alive. I'd like to share with you what was written by Gil Fronsdal on the passing of Mel Weitzman. Mel was a student of Shunryu Suzuki Roshi in the early days of San Francisco Zen Center. He founded the Berkeley Zen Center, was abbot there and co-abbot at San Francisco Zen Center for a time. I never studied with him, but I was aware of his presence as an approachable and straightforward person. I spoke with him once by the swimming pool at Tassajara. He didn't hold formal interviews then. He simply sat in a chair by the side of the pool and made himself available. Not such a common occurrence. Gil and I practiced together at Tassajara in the mid to late 70s. And I enjoyed what Gil shared. This is what he shared. Mel never related to Zen Center as if there was a problem. There were never problems, only some things that needed to be addressed. He would wake up in the morning and he would not see a problem. He would get up, someone would come to him with a problem to be addressed, and he would address it and take care of what needed to be taken care of, whether it was washing dishes or talking about fundraising or talking about institutional issues of the Zen Center as a whole. He didn't seem to walk through Zen Center assuming there were problems. Rather, he lived as if there was something to fully be present for and meet, to really meet the situation. Be present, find your way, do what needed to be done, but without seeing it as a problem, without any sense of hurry, without any sense of crisis, without any sense of hesitation. He would be present in the middle of all circumstances, as if it was the most ordinary thing in the world to do, and take care of what needed care. How to take care of what needs care. How to keep it simple. We can start from this place that we find ourselves in. this world of connected beings. Dogen Zenji said, there is a very easy way to become a Buddha. Don't seek it anywhere else. We bring ourselves to the work of being present in our lives just as they are. We appreciate the easy parts and we work at the hard parts. There's plenty to engage us. Our sitting practice provided us the tools and continues to provide us the tools to settle into this pandemic. We know how to sit in the midst of not knowing. And we will continue to live in this not knowing. How we live and how we stay connected with our fellow beings resides in our daily choices. What part of the past year was of value to you? What part can inform your relationships going forward? How do we express our sympathy for all beings? How do we utilize our thinking and diminish our worrying? Keeping the questions alive and acknowledging the value of our shared lives and experiences will be the gift of this memorable time. It's been brought to my attention that today is the 100th anniversary of the massacre of the Black community of Tulsa, Oklahoma. This was a community of Black people that had established a thriving economic and spiritual township. Their prosperity and humanity were envied, feared, and destroyed. In their memory and in an act of support, we will chant the Enmei Juku Kanangyo and dedicate our intention toward recompense and healing. Thank you for allowing me to share these thoughts and be with you today. So it's whether we want to go right into our little ceremony or whether we want a little time of question and answer. I think that's up to you, Dojin and Corin, whatever you think.
Why don't we do the chanting together?
Okay.
And then we'll have time for a question and answer after that.
Great.
Okay. Let's see. Did I hit it? Did I send it? Okay. So the Enmei-juku Kanangyo is in the chat, if you need the words for that. And we will chant it 7 times. Okay.
Enmei-juku Kanangyo. May all awakened beings extend with true compassion their luminous mirror wisdom on the 100th anniversary of the May 31st, 1921 massacre in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We remember the hundreds of Black people murdered in Tulsa and the total razing and destruction of Tulsa's affluent Black Wall Street neighborhood homes and businesses, along with other similar massacres and lynchings of Black people by white mobs of that era, and the continuing systemic violence against Black Americans. With full awareness, we have chanted the Enmei Juku Kanangyo for the compassionate protection of life. We dedicate this chanting to the well-being of all survivors of the Tulsa Massacre and their descendants, and to all people who are impacted by violence spawned of delusion. May ignorance and hate be transformed into compassion and wisdom. Gratefully, we offer this virtue to all beings.
Ominous in directions, past,
present,
and future. Om Venerable Bodhisattvas, great perfect wisdom beyond wisdom.
Thank you all very much. Should we transition into questions, reflections, comments?
Yeah,
Thank you, Annette.
well, thank you. Yes, I'm wondering if anyone has any feelings about what was shared, or if any of their own experiences with Memorial Day, or what can be memorable. Yes, Mary. Mary, you need to, there, okay.
My experiences are all tied up with the fact that it's my birthday. So I always thought they were celebrating me.
Yeah.
So I tell you that.
Happy birthday. And we are celebrating you.
It was my birthday yesterday, Mary.
Oh, wonderful.
And I turned 50, which I wanted to let you all know because it's kind of a big one. And I don't want to be demure about it, so. And it was.
Well, I'm ahead of you by about 14 years. This is my 74th.
Okay. More
Or 24 or something.
24, yeah.
Yeah.
Tomas.
Thank you, Annette. I especially appreciate the memorial for, I think it was called Greenwood. Was that it? Greenwood in Tulsa, which was the Black community. I know I've been hearing about it and saw an article in this morning's paper about it, and I haven't quite known how to hold it. And doing the ritual and the chant somehow was really poignant, not sort of having a discussion about it, but just somehow acknowledging it and kind of being with it. I had an experience a couple of days ago where I took an Uber and the young man driving was Filipino, and he'd only been in this country for 10 years or so, and he was about 20. And we started talking about racism and especially about Black community. And he had grown up in the Philippines, where I guess there's some tribes in the Philippines which are discriminated against. And probably in every place, there are people who are discriminated against. Obviously, it's part of human nature. But I know I was chatting with him about, how enslaved people were brought over here from Africa and sold and worked to build the wealth of our country, and talked about reparations. And I was just struck how there's such a difference between knowing and not knowing history and what happened. So again, thank you for your talk and for recognizing the 100th anniversary of the massacre.
Well, I think that's something, it was brought to my attention by Jisho, but I think it was something that was shared throughout the Buddhist network in order to acknowledge and chant and hold today. Because as we know, it isn't something that's settled, and it's something that will require attention and needs to be held with our attention and continuously. Thank you, Tomas. Jude.
Thank you, Annette, for a helpful and wonderful talk. I really appreciate, I've said this probably a million times, but I always appreciate the very pragmatic suggestions, such as you brought with the breath. It's just very accessible, and I really appreciate that. And I kind of want to echo what Tomas said and say that I really appreciate and want us as a Sangha to look at the ordinary, the calendar, the calendar of our lives, that like taking Memorial Day, which for me, much of the time was the Boy Scouts putting flags in the holes downtown and feeling stirring sense of country, and that's fine. I like that. I love that. And seeing the photos of Arlington, it's deeply moving and stirring and upsetting, and the whole aspect of war in our lives. But for us as a Sangha moving forward, to also fold in, like you said, the awareness. This is not just a day of flags being put in holes. It's a day of a remembering a tremendous massacre that occurred on this soil. And to make that, it doesn't diminish the sense of country or patriotism or whatever you want to call it, but it expands it. And I think that that's part of our work as a Sangha moving forward, is to change the calendar, change our thinking about holidays, change our thinking about the ordinary aspects and celebrations of our lives that maybe have mindlessly gone forward without including the really deep well of all Americans. So I just wanted to appreciate this and hope that we continue to do this, that bringing light and bringing awareness and folding it in and making it a part. So we change the calendar going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Jude. Yeah, that's when I think of, like what in our daily life is there to do, especially with what seems the simplified life. And it is endless. I mean, the paying attention, the waking up, the engaging, there's being with, yes, but there's also what does waking up to today and in the world we live in look like? Edme. Yeah.
Thank you for your talk. What I really appreciated as well, I mean, of course, I appreciate what everybody just said, but particularly that it comes from us. And first, we have to take care of ourselves by paying attention to our breathing and settling in our body. And how the practice is alive because we embody it. And I really appreciated what you said about that. Thank you.
Well, okay, so that may be it for today. Go out